Yesterday, we made ourselves this video talking about LA Kings forward Pierre-Luc Dubois and how you can very well say that he has failed his team. It was a really big deal because heading into Game 5 against the Edmonton Oilers in the first round of the 2024 Stanley Cup Playoffs, you needed a big performance out of Dubois to justify the $8.5 million contract that he is on. This guy is supposed to be one of the best players on the team, and even the Sportsnet panel before Game 5 went out there and talked about this on their broadcast. With the season on the line, Pierre-Luc Dubois needs to take over a game. What happened in that final game for PLD? Well, yeah, we talked about this yesterday, but he had 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 shots on goal, 2 penalty minutes, 16 minutes and 15 seconds of light cardio, and 4 shots in 5 games in the series. So, PLD, go off, fam. Today, though, it's a new day. And after the video we made yesterday, we saw some extra articles that were posted about Pierre-Luc Dubois. There was a thing on Sportsnet asking if a trade or a buyout or keeping him around is going to be the best course of action here, but the reason we are making this video is because somebody on the postseason availability press conference actually went out there and asked Dubois about the idea of a buyout. There were a few other tweets as well, going over some comments like this one, for example. Pierre-Luc Dubois was asked if a shift to the wing could help him. "I'll go anywhere the team needs me to go, but I think I'm a centerman." And you know what, quite frankly, I'd have to agree with that too. I don't really think Dubois' game is suited for the wing. I think he's developed at center this entire time. Actually, I think he was, for some part of his career, a winger in the QMJHL, but that might have been, a different circumstance. It was 8 years ago, either way. Pierre-Luc Dubois had quite a few good runs at center, especially in Winnipeg, that thinking about him on the wing just feels sort of off. I don't really know if that fits, even though there are some replies going out there and defending Pierre-Luc Dubois, like this one from Blake. A shift to the wing would only help him if he's playing with better line mates. Trevor Lewis and Carl Grundstrom are not helping. Give me Pierre-Luc Dubois centering Kempe and Byfield. Ludacris goes out there and said, yeah, that kind of sounds a bit ludicrous, not gonna lie. Prolific Travis says, I think he's better off unemployed. And then you've got Matt, who was another LA Kings fan, saying Pierre-Luc Dubois is just not going to deliver, no matter which system or position. He just doesn't have the killer instinct. He has all the tools and the size, but he just is not designed to be the player he could be. Time to accept it. 3 NHL teams and a junior team have all given the time, and he has not shown up. Speaking of which, this was the big comment that I wanted to go over to make this video about. Pierre-Luc Dubois said about his disappointing season, I have to be better. At the end of the day, it's on me. As for a possible trade or a buyout, it's out of my control. And that is pretty damning, honestly. Like, imagine having a season so poor that all of a sudden, at the end of it, you're making $8.5 million a year. You're on the books till 2030, whatever. You're making a ton of dough. You don't show up in the postseason. You don't show up towards the end of the regular season. And the media is asking you about a trade or a buyout. That's nuts. Like, I feel like the media normally has their boundaries set pretty high when it comes to, what questions are appropriate to ask. And even if a player is bad, per se, or he doesn't have the season we think he can have, they don't usually touch the idea of, hey, could you get traded? Hey, do you think the team's going to buy you out? Hey, do you think your future here is not guaranteed anymore? Like, that's so... Wow, that's rambunctious right there. There are a few extra replies that go out there and bring up some pretty interesting things too, like Matthew, Daily LA King, says that Dubois has taken accountability for most that had happened in his short time in LA so far, so I'll give him props for that. And then there's a lot of other people saying, yeah, at least he can own up to things, at least he is taking accountability, which is great. And it's good to see that Dubois is not being snobby about it. You know what they say, right? Proper diagnosis precedes proper treatment. So as long as he's acknowledging that he needs to be better, that at least is like a good first step to take. But at the same time, is Pierre-Luc Dubois capable of taking that next step? The guy was useless in the playoffs, making $8.5 million a year. And what? Since he wasn't good at all this year, how far are you willing to go next year and the year after that? What is the leash that Pierre-Luc Dubois has before you start thinking, yeah, we're kind of done with this guy. We got to trade him. We got to buy him out. We got to do this. We got to do that. Because I'll tell you right here, there have already been a bunch of posts about a Dubois buyout and how actually it would be kind of beneficial for the LA Kings to do that now. Here's one that was talked about from John Puck 1992. This was from yesterday, or no, 2 days ago, excuse me. It had 100,000 views, and the tweet goes out there and says this: a Pierre-Luc Dubois buyout would save the LA Kings a lot of money if you just did it now. Attached are 2 screenshots. A Pierre-Luc Dubois buyout would span 14 years and cost $15,833,333. The savings would be $31.6 million. Dubois is 25 years old at the age and time of the buyout, which if we assume is like today, therefore the buyout ratio is 1/3. With $47.5 million in salary remaining to Dubois, the cost would end up being 1/3 of that, which is $15,833,000, etc. The savings would be $31.6 million. Buyouts span twice the length of the remaining years, and because there are 7 years remaining in the contract, the buyout length is 14 years. The buyout cap hit is displayed in the cap hit calculations table below. And I love how Cap Friendly goes out there and describes it. It's a very easy to understand, written out format. You take the total remaining years of the contract and you double it. You take the total remaining money in the contract and you cut it into 1/3 because he is only 25 years old. And the table shows here that the cap, the AAV for a Pierre-Luc Dubois buyout would be $1.13 million per season up until, what is that, 2038? It's not that bad. I mean, 2038 is a long freaking time away. I get that. But, like, still, that's a lot of savings per year. And if you take a look at the savings for the first 7 years of a buyout with PLD, the Kings would be saving $6.8 million, $6.9 million, $5.9 million, $4.7 million. It's a good amount of money every single year. And then, of course, from years 8 to 14, there would be a $1.13 million cap hit on the Kings roster, that in which they would not have if they just kept Dubois around. So this is a very cheap way to get rid of that contract. And you know, look, it's not a good way to do your business. Like, you don't like to see teams giving up on players and just chucking them off to the curb. We don't like to see it when Vegas rotates around with their top guys. The Marc-Andre Fleury's, the Robin Lehners, the Max Pacioretty's. They get these big-name guys, they trade them away, they ship them off, they disrespect the players in a way. They don't tell them when they're getting traded, they find out via Twitter. It's a ruthless way to do your business, but I will say, it is effective. Not really humanizing, but it is something that has proven to have good results. So for the LA Kings and Pierre-Luc Dubois, of course, it'd be kind of foolish to say, oh yeah, they're going to buy out a guy they just traded for a year ago. Like, you look like the stupidest team in the world, trading away Vilardi, Iafallo, the assets in Winnipeg for a guy whom you're just going to buy out 1 year after the trade. Like, that's terrible asset management. But at the same time, did anybody really project Pierre-Luc Dubois to be this bad? And the reason a buyout is interesting now is because when it comes to the buyout rules, if you go over to Cap Friendly and you take a look at what's going on here, because Pierre-Luc Dubois is currently 25 years old, this entire buyout situation is the way it is right now. It's 1/3 the cost, twice the years. But this tweet from Bannerman Pod goes out there and talks about how there's a fantastic wrinkle in this situation. Dubois can be bought out with 1/3 of his contract at the age of 25. However, he turns 26 on June 24th. The last possible date for the cup to be awarded is June 24th as well. The cost of a buyout. For players who are 26 years old or older, a buyout is 2/3 of the remaining salary on the owed contract. For players who are under 26, the buyout is 1/3. So if the Kings buy out Pierre-Luc Dubois on June 24th when he is 26 years old, then all of a sudden, you're not saving $31.6 million, you are instead spending it, and your savings ends up being the $15 million number. If the Kings bought out Dubois right now at 25, they're only going to have to pay $15 million and save $31 million, but it's flipped the other way around if they wait until he is 26. So if you really wanted to maximize your cap, you gotta buy this guy out now. I don't even know if that's possible because, you know, you're in the middle of a season, technically. It's not over yet. But if the Stanley Cup gets awarded earlier, and maybe the Kings buy out Dubois at that point, if it's before June 24th and before he is 26 years old, they would be saving their own behinds and cutting Dubois out of an extra $15 million over the span of the next 14 years. That's crazy. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire Dubois buyout conversation, how Dubois responded to that thought as well. Do you think Pierre-Luc Dubois is an LA King by the time 2024-2025 comes and goes? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.